Welcome! This is Minidisc Monday number 22, and I'm going to show you and review an album from a group who I'm a big fan of. I've been looking forward to listening to this album again, as it's been some years since I last heard it, as is the case with most of my mini-discs, to be fair. It's the second of only 3 studio albums this group ever released. I am talking about the Liverpool indie dance rock band Baggy Manchester, although maybe that's a bit offensive to Liverpudlians to lump them in with a Manchester phenomenon. But of course I'm talking about Love See No Colour, the second album by The Farm.
You never really miss a thing till it's taken away from you. You never believe in it till a miracle it comes true. I found you. I found you. Loving see no color. Friendship is the same. Loving has no border. Hear the wise man say.
So I've been quite the Farm collector over the last few months, as people who keep abreast of my Records Roundup series will attest to. I've bought a lot of their singles, pretty much all of them I think, at the time of me recording this. Predominantly on 7-inch single, a couple of 12 inches among there as well. And I've got their first 2 albums, Spartacus, which came out the year prior to this, 1991. I've got that on vinyl, and this one I've had on mini-disc for quite some years. It was technically a Sony Music product, which is unsurprising given that Sony were the inventors of the mini-disc format. Their third album, I don't own that yet, that only came out physically on CD. This album, it didn't chart, which is a crying shame because it is very good. We'll get on to the tracks and my thoughts on them in a moment, but we'll have a look at the mini-disc itself, the packaging and what have you. So quite a nice condition case this, got no complaints. Can't remember the price I paid, but I don't think this was overly expensive on either eBay or Discogs many years ago. The disc there, I think the label is technically on upside down, but it doesn't matter. It just means you have to kind of look at the arrow on the mini disc if I can find it, but you can see that. And make sure you're sticking it in the right way in your MD machine. On the other side is the track listing and some legal bump. It's on the end product label, but really that was just a vanity label for The Farm, and it riffs on their previous indie label, Produce Records. As for the booklet, it's not bad. It's a little bit kind of basic in its design, but it's got all the lyrics in it. Band photo there on the inside cover. Nice Love See No Colour motif in the middle, and some legal stuff and thanks and what have you at the back. And the track listing again on the back of the cover there. So I do really like this album. I'm a big Farm fan, as I've said. Really happy that I've been collecting all their singles particularly, and an early compilation album that came out actually before they even released a proper studio album. We'll go through the tracks. Track 1 was released as a single, Rising Sun. Most of the tracks that I'm familiar with as singles on here are kind of sounding a little different because the singles were remixed by various people or just kind of tarted up here and there. But it's a great version of Rising Sun, which is a single that didn't do brilliantly. I mean, it's so surprising that Spartacus got to number 1, and this album, with the weight of Sony, the massive corporation behind it, didn't even chart. It boggles my mind really how poorly this did. And the singles, they all charted. None of them massively high, but we'll get onto that in a moment. Number 2, a great track, one of my favourites on the album, Hard Times. Follows up with another good one, Words of Wisdom. Some real good kind of dance, rock, indie pop stuff here, just a real good blend. The Farm had really got that sound down pat. I mean, I'm a big dance music fan, and I'm a big indie fan, and The Farm I think are just one of the best at blending the two. Track 4 is what I think is my second favourite Farm single of all time, after All Together Now, and that's Mind. There again, the album version differs somewhat from the single version, but it is still an absolutely outstanding single. Did okay in the chart, should have done a lot better, but I can say that about all the singles on here. And the album itself, the fact that it didn't even make the UK album top 100 still blows my mind really. Been a Long Time is track number 5, and then track number 6 is probably the weakest of the singles from the album, but I still really like it, and it's their cover of the Human League's Don't You Want Me. I kind of wanted to not like it really, because I thought, isn't this a bit frivolous of The Farm to release a Human League cover, and the obvious Human League cover as well, but they do a great job, you know, I love it. That was the best selling single from this album. I believe that got in the lower half of the top 20, but given that stuff like Groovy Train and All Together Now got the top 10 in 1990-91, it was a disappointment really in relation to sales and chart positions. Track 7 is Rain. Number 8, Good Morning Sinners, still very strong. And track 9 is the title track, and it was also released as a single a couple of times, once and then it got remixed and re-released. Love See No Colour. I think the remixed version did better than the first release of the single. Another really strong single. I like the album version actually, it's almost kind of an ambient sound really, it's very chilled. Then this is where I think the album starts to tail off a little bit. It's still decent, but I think it could have done with maybe 2 or 3 of these last tracks really being used as B-sides or just being saved over for something else. But track 10 is Creepers. Number 11, Susie Boo, which seems to be kind of like a commentary on America really, certainly as I was listening to it, and I listened to this album right before filming, and looking at the lyrics, that seemed to be the case for me. Pretty good, but not brilliant, didn't blow me away. Track 12, Over Again. Track 13, Tooth Fairy, which was good. Funnily enough, it riffs on Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata at the start, Tooth Fairy, which was quite a nice touch. Of course, All Together Now, when that was re-recorded for Spartacus and for single release in 1990, that had the backing of Pachelbel's canon and worked so well on All Together Now. They don't quite riff on Moonlight Sonata throughout the whole thing, but certainly at the beginning there's a blast of it. And the final track, and the longest one on the album at 7 minutes 26, is News International, which, as you can imagine, is sort of like a satirical swipe at Rupert Murdoch's evil media empire. Bear in mind that The Farm, as a Liverpool band, would have been heavily involved in the Hillsborough Justice campaign at this point, and it's something that the members of the band continue to be a part of to this day. I won't go into the whys and wherefores of that, this isn't the time, but you'll understand if you do a little bit of reading and research as to why The Farm, and indeed anyone from Liverpool, would want to take a swipe at Rupert Murdoch. The track goes on a little bit, it didn't need to be quite so long at nearly 7.5 minutes, but it was decent overall. So yeah, a little bit of an album of 2 halves. Over a half was excellent, and then for me waned a little bit, and it was a little bit over long ultimately by the end. But still a big recommendation from me. The Farm are a band who I think people need to check out and enjoy and listen to more anyway. But that is Love See No Colour by The Farm. Thank you all for watching, hope you enjoyed this edition of Minidisc Monday. I want to say special thanks as always to my wonderful subscribers and generous patrons. I'm going to go now, and please join me again in a fortnight's time for the next wonderfully exciting instalment of Minidisc Monday. Cheers everyone. See ya!